Tonight, guilty. Donald Trump, the first US president to become a convicted criminal. The historic verdict sends shockwaves across America and threatens to upend November's election. Also tonight, an 18-year-old girl killed, 4 teenage passengers injured as their car hits a tree at Wetherill Park. Bring back dining vouchers for cash-strapped families. The pleas from restaurant owners ahead of the state budget. Plus an uplifting story for your Friday night. We take you under the harbour as an endangered species is given a new home. And after a stunning return for the Eels, Mitch Moses regrets it came too late to save Brad Arthur.
This is 9 News with Georgie Gardner.
Good evening. It's a historic verdict that's rocked America and the world. Donald Trump, the first former US president to become a convicted criminal. The word guilty reverberated 34 times through a New York courthouse this morning, with the Republican presidential candidate now facing a hefty fine or worse, jail time.
Guilty! Guilty! Guilty!
A verdict that will reshape America.
Count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty.
Count 33, former President Donald Trump found guilty.
Donald Trump was stony-faced in the Manhattan courthouse as the verdict was read out. Guilty of all 34 counts of business fraud, hush money payments to cover up an affair with a porn star and influence the 2016 election. The first criminal conviction of a US president, a legacy that will haunt him.
We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution.
His supporters had argued he couldn't get a fair trial in Manhattan.
What goes on?
But still, they were shell-shocked.
Should have been televised. Let the American people, let the world see what's going on here.
Cheers erupted in the park across the street.
I'm thrilled. It sort of breaks the spell of his escaping consequence.
But even for those who despise him, it felt bittersweet.
I know regardless of what he does, he's still going to have supporters, so we'll have to see.
The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
The jury overlooked the flaws of star witness Michael Cohen.
So this is a 6-year process within which for accountability to finally be had.
Trump's former fixer who brokered the deal for his boss with the head of the National Enquirer, David Pecker.
It's a confirmation for me of a lot of things that I suspected were going on and that I thought had crossed a line but couldn't really kind of confirm it in real time.
The husband of former adult film star Stormy Daniels said this was a big weight off her shoulders.
This wasn't her case. She didn't ask for this.
And it was a vindication for the Manhattan District Attorney, who praised his team for following the facts without fear or favour.
The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
Donald Trump will be sentenced on July 11. A jail sentence is possible, but unlikely. Few convicts come with a lifetime Secret Service detail.
Until now, Donald Trump's troubles with the law have bolstered his base, but he's now in uncharted territory, campaigning as a convicted felon.
This would be a devastating blow for most presidential candidates. But his son Eric filmed as Trump appeared unfazed as both tears and jeers rained down on Trump Tower. From eldest daughter Ivanka, "I love you, Dad." His family sending public messages of support, except for wife Melania. In New York, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Let's go now to Alison Petrowski in New York. And Ali, where does Donald Trump go from here?
Georgie, Donald Trump has foreshadowed an appeal, but that will take months to play out and will not be wrapped up before the November election. Within hours of becoming a convicted criminal, Donald Trump announced he'd be back campaigning here in New York in 7 hours from now. At Trump Tower, he will hold an event. 6 months until the election, and he has no time to waste.
Donald Trump is preparing for a fight.
This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Within minutes of the conviction, his website's front page became a fundraising platform and it crashed. He claimed to be a political prisoner, the victim of a witch hunt, and his lawyer is crying foul.
Did your client get a fair trial?
I mean, no.
I don't think so.
Tonight, that client returned to his tower from a campaign fundraiser. The race to the White House now has a convicted felon. And days after Judge Juan Merchan sentences Donald John Trump, the Republican Party will formally declare him their pick for the White House. He also faces 3 other criminal trials. It's unlikely any will get underway before Election Day in November. And if Donald Trump wins, he could pardon himself from 2 federal cases. But he cannot pardon a state charge or conviction, including today's. Polls indicate this will be an incredibly tight presidential race. Just a handful of states will be key. The question remains how much today's historic event will move the needle in the minds of voters. The conviction will likely be used by both campaigns to try and sway those who'll be deciding America's commander-in-chief.
This is a justice system that hunts Republicans while protecting Democrats.
President Joe Biden not speaking publicly, instead posting online, there's only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box, a message he will likely spread across the country in the months ahead. The Biden campaign declaring the threat Donald Trump poses to our democracy has never been greater. Watching all this closely from afar, an AUKUS ally.
The relationship between Australia and the United States is a relationship between nations, not just between individuals.
Even with a conviction, the 45th president can still be commander-in-chief. If he avoids jail, he can still vote for himself. But state law means he now can't possess a gun or obtain a liquor licence. Tonight, America has a new page in its history books. And at Donald Trump's Florida home, they're flying the flag for a convicted criminal. In the United States, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
An 18-year-old girl has died and 4 of her teenage friends are tonight in hospital after a crash at Wetherell Park in the city's west. The P-plater's death is the 3rd fatality in Sydney this week, sending the state's road toll to a new high.
18-year-old Selena Lai, a high school graduate with her life ahead of her. Now, the latest casualty on Sydney's roads. It was 11 o'clock at Wetherell Park. Selena's Honda Accord comes down the Horsley Drive, suddenly veers off the road and into a tree.
The speed of light and crash, bang.
Also inside, 4 teenage passengers, the youngest a 16-year-old boy. They were supposed to be driving home, but they never made it. All extracted from the vehicle and treated at the scene, Selena could not be saved.
Very sad, to hear 18 years old teenagers, just their life cut short.
It was really shocking, to hear that. It was really scary.
Selena was on her red Ps and recently finished school at Cecil Hills High. The 19 and 16-year-old passengers were brought here to Liverpool Hospital where they're today being treated, one of them with serious chest injuries. The 17-year-old boy and girl tonight at Westmead Hospital in a stable condition. This latest fatality takes the New South Wales road death toll to 150 so far this year. That's 23 more than this time last year. Selena's death coming as the Australian Road Safety Foundation's Fatality-Free Friday campaign officially got underway.
If we were to have a fatality-free future, we need the community to take that leadership position.
In Wetherell Park, Massilia Eiley, 9 News.
Bruce Lehrmann has lodged an appeal against his crushing defamation defeat by Network 10 and host Lisa Wilkinson. In April, the federal court found that on the balance of probabilities, the former Liberal staffer raped Brittany Higgins at Parliament House in 2019. Lehrmann filed the paperwork at the 11th hour and the deadline to do so was today. He intends to represent himself. New Zealand's Prime Minister has slammed the Albanese government for changing a controversial immigration ruling that's led to violent criminals being allowed to stay in Australia. The independent body responsible for overturning visa cancellations today revealed more than 180 have been reinstated since the direction was made.
Long-standing friends across the ditch. But tonight, trans-Tasman tensions are flaring as a deportation deal is thrown out.
We regret the decision that Australia has made.
So we have a good relationship. We had a good chat yesterday. Australia makes our decisions in our national interest.
That decision to rewrite a ministerial direction which had allowed dozens of foreign criminals to stay in the country. The ruling originally brought in to appease New Zealand's concerns about taking back Kiwi citizens who have broken the law but have spent most of their lives in Australia.
It's not fair that actually we get deportees coming back to New Zealand that have got very little connection or no connection to this country. That's not right.
The Albanese government has bungled this both in terms of the safety of Australians and our diplomatic relations with New Zealand.
The direction also leading to people from other nations with serious offences keeping their visas.
The federal government blames the Administrative Appeals Tribunal for ultimately reinstating visas that were cancelled by the Commonwealth. Facing questions today, the independent body took responsibility for those decisions but maintained they were based on the direction issued by Immigration Minister Andrew Giles.
We seek to hear the evidence, listen to the submissions, make findings of fact, apply the law, apply directions and come to a conclusion. You would be concerned that that person could be gunned down on their return to their own country.
Changes promised as soon as possible, but still no confirmation what that will look like. Claudia Verdonjak, 9 News.
A man known as the Inner West rapist has been jailed for more than 17 years for violent sex attacks on 4 women. Darren Kennedy preyed on his victims in the early 2000s but wasn't captured until after a DNA breakthrough in 2021. The 54-year-old pleaded guilty to 13 charges, a judge describing his spree as callous, degrading and dehumanising. A suspected arsonist allegedly armed with a hammer has been arrested at Doonside in the city's west. The man is accused of setting fire to his mother's house in what police say was an act of domestic violence.
Windows burning bright.
Hopefully no one's in there, eh?
Smoke pouring out.
It's full black. Oh.
As a Doonside house turns into a furnace shortly before 9 last night.
The whole inside of the house was just orange.
It was smoke, it was black, it was just black.
There's always that concern whether someone could be inside, so firefighters forced entry while they were attacking the fire, conducted a search.
Fortunately, no one was inside, but police arrested the tenant's son down the street, a 31-year-old man.
I saw a guy running up and down, and I don't know what he got in his hand.
He was allegedly armed with a shovel and hammer, tasered by officers before being taken to Westmead Hospital and charged.
It is a bit scary, you know, living in Doonside.
The gutted home too dangerous for forensics to enter today, but police say they found a jerry can and cigarette lighter at the scene. Though this blaze is being treated as suspicious, firefighters say with the beginning of winter tomorrow, it should serve as a reminder for everyone to check their smoke alarms.
We are asking people to be really conscious of the fire safety in your home.
In Doonside, Annalise Bolt, 9 News.
An Australian couple badly injured on board a Singapore Airlines flight earlier this month have touched down in Adelaide after a medical flight from Bangkok. Keith Davis suffered lacerations while his wife Kerry sustained a spinal injury, paralysing her from the waist down when the plane hit extreme turbulence.
Personally, I feel guilty that I'm able to stand here and walk around and talk to you guys. That's my feeling. I'm coming to terms with that.
25 passengers remain in hospital in Bangkok. Cuts to payroll tax and dining vouchers for struggling families. A powerful new alliance of Sydney's restaurateurs believe those are the ingredients required to revive the lagging hospitality industry as the rising cost of living continues to bite.
During the Friday lunch rush at Sydney's best restaurants, from Chin Chin in the city to Margaret in Double Bay, well-known head chefs and managers stepped out to form an influential new lobby group as their $64 billion a year industry is hit hard by families cutting back.
2024 has certainly been one of the hardest years for hospitality. Many businesses have said that they're closing because times are harder than they've ever been.
Rockpool's Neil Perry will chair the new Australian Restaurant and Cafe Association, and on the menu calls for the state government to axe payroll tax.
I still can't get my head around the fact
You get taxed for employing people. It's crazy.
And reinstate vouchers to stimulate spending.
We certainly will call for the return of the Dine and Discover.
The Treasurer is right now preparing his second budget, but after inflation ticked up this week, it's unlikely he'll have any appetite to take measures that could fuel that fire.
Though the opposition is agitating for cost of living relief.
Dine and Discover was a great program which was able to drive people back into restaurants and hospitality businesses. And of course, this government's got to look at what they can do for cost of living relief.
But this vocal group of business owners isn't stopping on Macquarie Street. A staffing crisis has them also lobbying Canberra to make immigration changes and industrial relations reforms. In the city, Liz Daniels, 9 News.
A derelict home at Russell Lea near Parramatta will soon welcome a new family after being refurbished into social housing. It's one of 277 homes the state government has renovated using federal funding in a bid to clear the wait list. New social housing builds such as these at Chester Hill, Marylands and St Mary's will now also be approved more quickly under a dedicated pathway. Well, it's not long until the Matildas run out onto Adelaide Oval for their first warm-up match on home soil ahead of the Olympics. Tom Wren is at Adelaide Oval for us. And Tom, it is a sea of green and gold there, I imagine.
Oh, it really is, Georgie. We're still a couple of hours away from kick-off, but such is the excitement. People want to get here early and really soak up the atmosphere. Some 53,000 fans here tonight, Georgie. The last time we had the Matildas in Adelaide was 5 years ago, and the transformation in terms of popularity, as you know, has just been enormous. And there's just so much excitement here in the city. It's been all week, but now really reaching a crescendo. So looking forward to this warm-up match, as you say, against China. And it's an opportunity for the coach, Tony Gustafsson, to have a look at his players one final time before cutting that squad back to 18. Now, our cameras were there a little earlier today as they stretched their legs ahead of tonight's match. And before they finish up, they'll, of course, travel back to Sydney for a friendly on Monday. So go the Matildas tonight. Should be a fantastic atmosphere, Georgie.
Well said, Tom Wren. Thank you. It is time now for a check of today's weather. Hi, Belinda.
Hi, Georgie. Cloudy skies over Sydney today, a gloomy end to the month. That cloud cover bringing a mild morning. Overnight lows about 4 or 5 degrees, warmer than the May average. Penrith only dipping to 14.4 and then peaking at 22 just after 12:30. The city had its warmest morning in a month, the mercury only shifting about 3 degrees, from 17.2 to 20.8 with light to moderate northerly winds. But a cool southerly change is moving up the coast, sweeping into Sydney tomorrow morning. A soggy weekend ahead. All the details coming up after sport, Georgie.
See you then. Thank you, Belle. Still to come tonight, a Jetstar plane touches down on the tarmac. Everything seems normal. Then it suddenly veers off the runway. The terrifying landing for passengers. Police appeal for help over a terrifying home invasion and attempted luxury car theft near Hornsby. Sydney's most notorious gangster guilty of running drugs empire from the state's most secure prison. And farmers fight the 1,000-strong convoy through Perth and the message for the Prime Minister. Police have released new vision of 2 males wanted over a terrifying home invasion at Warrawee near Hornsby. A 32-year-old man was allegedly assaulted by a group of 5 intruders in his driveway on Warrawee Avenue earlier this month before they tried to steal his luxury car. A 16-year-old and an 18-year-old have already been charged over the incident. One of Sydney's most notorious gangsters, Bassam Hamzi, has been found guilty of running a drug ring from behind the wire of the state's most secure jail. The leader of the Brothers for Life gang denied pulling the strings from Goulburn Supermax, but a jury disagreed, today convicting him of 2 charges. Hamzi now faces an even longer stint behind bars. Around 3,000 farmers from across Western Australia have made a powerful statement today, descending on Perth. They're protesting against the federal government's ban on live sheep exports, worried it'll decimate rural communities.
They turned out in droves to send a message. More than 1,500 utes, trucks and tractors descending on Perth, demanding the Albanese government's ban on live sheep exports be overturned.
This is just evidence that the bush has had enough. We're sick of being pushed around the place. We're sick of being dictated to by a federal government that's not listening.
We care for our sheep so much, and we
we treat them with full respect for their whole lives, and we're just out there to feed the world and make sure everyone gets food on their plate.
Regional people fear the ban will decimate country towns and destroy their livelihoods.
Shearers, truckies, stockies, you name it, it's going to affect communities.
Less people in our communities mean less children in our schools, less businesses in our towns, less people playing sport, and slowly regional communities will just die.
Support from across the agricultural sector, including from people not directly involved in the industry. But the government says otherwise.
We know from surveys that this policy has the overwhelming support of West Australians. So now what we're doing is getting on and delivering an election commitment.
It's clear today just how many people and families this ban will affect. Farmers say they won't give up the fight until it's overturned.
We're hoping this rally gets all the way to Canberra so they know how we feel about this and how much we need it.
Sarah Smith, 9 News.
Rescue teams in Papua New Guinea have ruled out finding survivors a week on from a devastating landslide. At least 670 people have now been confirmed dead, but there are fears for more than 2,000 others. Treacherous terrain and a lack of heavy machinery have slowed down rescue efforts. There's been a scare for passengers on board a Jetstar flight this morning. The plane veered off the runway just as it touched down at Christchurch Airport in New Zealand. A steering issue is now being blamed.
A camera rolling as a Jetstar flight touches down in Christchurch. It all appears routine until the aircraft suddenly veers and then skids off the runway and onto grass.
Did we just crash?
Thankfully, no. But for those on board, it was a scary ride.
All of a sudden, we kind of hit the ground and then they stopped. And then I think we skidded on some grass and ended up diagonally on the tarmac.
You can hear what appears to be the grinding of the brakes as the flight crew attempts to cut short the landing.
It did seem like he was pushing the pedal rather harshly.
The pilot was quick to jump on the PA.
For safety reasons, we've had to bring the aircraft to a stop.
And the airline just as swift to explain the cause of the drama.
On landing, the crew experienced a steering issue associated with one of 3 hydraulic systems failing on the aircraft.
The plane is now grounded after the bumpiest of landings.
I'm from Christchurch and trauma from all the earthquakes, and I haven't been back much since, so kind of was like a welcome home, here's some more trauma for you.
Nerves rattled, but no harm done. Damien Ryan, 9 News.
Ahead in 9 News, major roadworks across Sydney this weekend threatening to cause travel headaches. Also, the medical revelation in the horrific double murder of a mother and daughter in Perth. The royal family issues a rare update on the Princess of Wales as she undergoes cancer treatment. The sinkhole blocking a street for 18 months and giving Penrith Council a $2 million headache. And the world-first trial here in Australia using brain stimulation to help treat anorexia. New details have emerged about double murderer Mark Bombara, who killed a woman and her daughter in Perth last week before turning the gun on himself. Health workers say the 59-year-old had a cyst the size of a cricket ball pushing on his brain. They raised concerns about his aggressive behaviour and had referred him to a neurosurgeon for surgery. They had also pleaded for his driver's licence to be suspended. Kensington Palace has given a rare update on the Princess of Wales, announcing she won't be attending a key military event next month. The King, however, will be at the annual Trooping of the Colour, but his role has been scaled back as he recovers from cancer.
Pinpoint precision at a practice for the King's birthday parade. This year, the Irish Guards will troop their colour at the annual event. The Princess of Wales is their Colonel-in-Chief and would usually take the salute at a dress rehearsal on June 8. But in a rare public update on her movements, Kensington Palace has announced Kate won't be attending as she continues chemotherapy.
We wish the Colonel of the Irish Guards the best of best wishes for her recovery. And again, the Irish Guards are hugely proud to have her as their Colonel and want to put on a really special show this year.
Trooping the Colour is a spectacular display of the British military, full of pomp and ceremony when traditionally the royal family watched the fly past from the Buckingham Palace balcony, waving to crowds. Whether Kate will be at the June 15 event is not clear. The palace has announced the King will take part in the Trooping the Colour event, but the capacity in which he does so will be altered slightly at the advice of the monarch's medical team. King Charles won't inspect the guards on horseback as he did last year. Instead, he'll do so from a carriage alongside Queen Camilla. The adjustment, a reminder that the King remains on the road to recovery from his own cancer battle. In London, Jessica Millward, 9 News.
For 18 months, residents near Penrith have been forced to live with a sinkhole blocking access to their street. Rectification works have missed another deadline, while burning an almost $2 million hole in the council's budget.
Another D-Day and Groundhog Day for Leonay locals.
End of May, we were told this would be finished and we'd be driving our cars down here.
3 or 4 deadlines have been missed.
The suburb's notorious sinkhole, which began as a small crater caused by flooding in 2022, looks like this 18 months on.
There's no road. That doesn't even look like it's even close to being finished.
Council blame water and water say no council. That's why most people have given up.
The construction zone turning River Road into a dead-end street. With only one other way in and out of the suburb, some residents are considering a class action to recover costs from council for extra distance they've had to travel.
After 12 months it was about $1,200 or something.
When asked about the delays, Penrith Council said it was critical to ensure the water and sewer supply to 5,000 homes was not interrupted. In a step forward, a pedestrian bridge has now been built on the construction site, with council insisting that the problem will be plugged once and for all by mid-July. But it will burn an even bigger hole in their budget. The cost to fix the sinkhole blowing out by a further $880,000, with the total bill for ratepayers now close to $2 million.
Concerned about how much taxpayers' money has been wasted on this project so far.
Council says new underground pipes have been installed, marking a critical milestone in the sinkhole saga. In Leonay, Elizabeth Bryan, 9 News.
If you're planning on travelling into or around the city this weekend, there will be major disruptions on the road, rail and light rail networks due to roadworks. From tonight, up to 5 lanes on the Harbour Bridge will be closed every night until Thursday. Both southbound lanes of the Harbour Tunnel will also be shut tonight. Meanwhile, there'll be disruptions on the Western Distributor from Sunday with detours in place. From tomorrow night, buses will replace trains on the T3 and T4 lines between Sydenham and Central. And from tonight, there will be no light rail services running between Town Hall and Circular Quay due to Vivid. Australian researchers are exploring a breakthrough treatment for anorexia. Using electromagnetic therapy, the team from Melbourne is targeting the part of the brain responsible for causing symptoms of the eating disorder.
With waves of energy, these researchers are embarking on a world-first trial that could finally bring a cure for anorexia.
If you fire lots and lots of pulses, it changes the activity levels of the brain tissue.
While electrotherapy has been used to treat depression for decades, this is about targeting the brain network that appears to cause anorexic behaviours.
We identify each individual's specific target.
Discovering this specific anorexia brain network was a major breakthrough for researchers. The team from Monash University and Alfred Health identified it in a sample of patients who had all unexpectedly developed anorexia symptoms after a brain injury.
These were healthy people who did not have anorexia behaviours.
When I was struggling with anorexia, I genuinely thought that my brain was hijacked.
Lexi Crouch battled anorexia for 15 years. Now an eating disorder coach, she says the trial brings hope.
It is not something that you are deemed crazy for. It's not something that should be hidden away. There is actually biological reasons.
20 participants will take part in the 10-minute sessions over several months. Then interim results are expected early next year.
We really do need to add more innovative and evidence-based treatment options.
To have made a full recovery from anorexia is something that I wish for everybody in the future.
Justine Conway, 9 News.
Still to come tonight, the bad stacks Sydney trains want you to see, with hundreds of passengers injured. The message is to slow down. Also, full house, where underwater as an endangered species moves into Sydney Harbour's Seahorse Hotel. And in Sport with Roz, injuries might force the Blues to make a surprise move in Origin 1.
An interesting one too, Georgie. It was a relaxed day in the Blue Mountains as the Blues got in a round of golf. Tonight we speak to a shock contender to play in the halves if injury strikes in Game 1. After a stunning return for the Eels, Mitchell Moses opens up about his guilt at the sacking of Brad Arthur. Plus, Alex de Minaur marches into the third round of the French Open, and that wasn't the only Aussie success.
And we're in for a wet weekend, so how much rain is coming your way? The forecast is coming up soon.
The Blues may be forced to turn to a makeshift half if injury strikes during Origin 1. Cam McInnes is preparing to fill the unfamiliar role ahead of the series opener on Wednesday night.
He might be the most stylish of golfers, but Brian To'o needs some driving lessons. The Blues enjoying their day off, taking time to hit the Lura links, the team leaders playing in the same group. Later it was time for some sightseeing. To'o, the team prankster, off to check out the local area. It was significant Luke Keary was still in camp. He's on standby for Nico Hines until at least tomorrow. But another player may be in line to cover for Nico. First-timer Cam McInnes is shaping as the Blues game day backup. When did you last play in the halves?
I don't know. Against Melbourne a few weeks ago, that my role was sort of to attack there but defend in the middle. So, yeah, comfortable doing that. So you got to be agile, don't you? Stay agile.
The 30-year-old is ready to take his chance. You've been around the block to get here.
Yeah, I had to have a quick look to see where I sat on the oldest debutants.
Where'd you go?
I think maybe 5th or 6th.
No one has played it tougher. All the bumps, bruises, knocks, cuts, worth it?
Yeah, mate, of course it's worth it to make it here, but playing the game's worth it to me. Like I love playing, so it's what I've done since I was a kid and dreamed about being here.
And there's a soft side to the new Blues tough guy. He says he owes this moment to his partner Rachel.
Yeah, been with her since before it all started, and she's ridden the highs and lows, and she was so happy. And to see that joy, because what we do, it's hard for the partners. Like I'm away and even playing footy, living life a certain way, and she has to cop all that. So to actually see the joy for her, that makes it really worthwhile for me.
In the Blue Mountains, Danny Weidler, 9 News.
Mitchell Moses admits he felt helpless as Brad Arthur was sacked by Parramatta while he was sidelined with a broken foot. Moses starred on his return after 10 weeks out, guiding the Eels to a desperately needed win over Cronulla.
Mitchell Moses back, doing what he does best.
Absolute class there from Mitchell Moses.
The halfback, man of the match on his return, pulling the strings for Parramatta in a 34-22 win over the Sharks. But it's what he couldn't control that's been bothering him. Coach Brad Arthur axed as the Eels lost 7 of 8 games while Moses was injured.
Helpless the whole time, you know what I mean? And to have our coach get sacked and, I have no control over it was really hard. I was really close with him and sad to see him leave.
The broken foot also robbed Moses of a start in Origin 1, but he's still hopeful of playing later in the series.
I tried my backside off to come back and get it back early and just didn't pull up right. But, I know it myself. I gave it every chance to come back and try to be there, but I fell short. So I just got to play good footy here and see what happens.
Parramatta looks like a new team with their number 7 back.
Yeah, I just felt comfortable. It makes things much easier. I can just not relax on the left edge, but enjoy myself a bit more.
Blue and gold fans and players sharing the spoils of victory.
Well, I got a bracelet, which I'm pretty stoked about. So there's Dylan.
Very cute.
The loss, the second straight for Cronulla, who have fallen off the top of the table.
Flat performance, got jumped on energy.
The Sharks did score the best try of the night, a contender for four-pointer of the season. Will Kennedy starting and finishing the length of the field epic.
Spectacular from the Sharkies.
Luke Dovesey, 9 News.
The Bulldogs have made the trip up the freeway to face the Knights in Newcastle this evening. Danica Mason joins us now. Danica, Josh Addo-Carr may have a point to prove after being left out of Origin.
Yes, good evening, Roz. You can imagine he would be disappointed with that, and so he'll be wanting to put in an almighty performance for the Bulldogs here tonight. Alana Ferguson alongside me. What are you expecting to see from Josh Addo-Carr, as well, considering that we've got a full State of Origin series ahead of us? He could still make an appearance in Game 2 or 3.
Yeah, look, he's worn that jersey before, and it means absolutely everything. So no doubt he's got that in the back of his mind. He's out there for the Bulldogs tonight, and he'll want to perform really well for them. I think he's in great form, Josh Addo-Carr. He's put on a few kilos from last year. He looks really fit and just showing another level of maturity. So he's in great form. Madge has obviously got a bit of a strategy about the way he's picking his team, but first and foremost, he needs to come out and win for the Bulldogs.
Well, for the Bulldogs tonight, they have struggled with away games. They haven't won a single away game this year, and they're up against the Newcastle Knights. They've been on a red-hot run. They're aiming for win number 5 here tonight.
Yeah, they love playing at home too, don't they? The crowd will turn out. There's a bit of rain coming down here now at McDonald Jones Stadium, but they've won 9 of their last 11 games, so it'll be some kind of a contest here, that's for sure.
Yeah, we cannot wait for it. Of course, Roz, all the action right here on Nine's Wide World of Sports. We do hope this rain holds off just a little bit longer.
Thank you, ladies. See you then. Alex de Minaur is through to the third round of Roland Garros for the first time in 8 attempts. The world number 11 defeating Spaniard Jaime Munar in straight sets, while Thanasi Kokkinakis survived another marathon 5-setter. Down 2-0 against Italian Giulio Zappiri, the Aussie stormed home to win through to the third round, where American Taylor Fritz awaits. 2 Australians will begin their fight for an NBA championship next week. Dante Exum and Josh Green helping the Mavericks to a dominant 124-103 win over the Timberwolves and the Western Conference title. It sets up a showdown with the Celtics, the best-of-7 series starting next Friday. And it'll go down as one of the great days of competitive surfing. Chopu again roaring to life for the final day of the Tahiti Pro. There were perfect 10-point rides and heavy wipeouts before Brazilian Italo Ferreira walked away with the trophy. The Fiat Wave will be back in the spotlight again soon. Chopu is surfing's venue for the Olympic Games, and it's not for the faint-hearted, Georgie.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for that, Roz. Still to come tonight, the Australian burrito chain set for a $2 billion takeaway deal. Also, hundreds of thousands of cigarettes and thousands of vapes seized. A huge black market crackdown by Border Force and police. Slips and trips, the vision Sydney Trains wants you to see before you head to the station. And from a tank to the bottom of Sydney Harbour, the release into the wild bringing fresh hope for an endangered species.
Well, Guzman Gomez, or GYG as it's known, has wrapped up its plans to float. With June 20 crunch time for its ASX listing, the chain will enter with a valuation of $2.2 billion. It comes as the market snapped a 3-day run in the red, closing up 1%. Happy hour at Treasury Wine Estates after it ended 2.8% higher. Bega Cheese also had a win and Woolworths rose 2%. A positive Friday for the big four banks too. CBA ended up 1.3%. ANZ 1.15%. And the Aussie dollar had a fairly solid day. It's buying around 66 US cents and 52 British pence.
Australian Border Force has disrupted a major illegal tobacco supplier in Canberra. More than 285,000 cigarettes and almost 2,000 vapes were seized in raids this week, along with $14,000 in cash. A 44-year-old man has been arrested and will face court next month. Slow down, pay attention and take care. Those are the 3 things Sydney Trains is urging us to remember when travelling on the rail network. It's a timely reminder of what happens when you don't.
Stumbling at Strathfield, slipping at Central and beware the stairs at Woolooware. Welcome to Sydney Trains, where not all trips are smooth sailing.
You're lucky to get away with a
scratch or a scrape, but some of them can end you up in the hospital.
Let's be honest, the mad rush home can get the best of us sometimes. Just ask this lady at Wooleye Creek. But serious injuries are becoming so common, train staff are having to speak out.
Most injuries happen when people are rushing to catch a train or they're distracted with their mobile phone, and those injuries are completely avoidable.
There were 1,900 falls across the Sydney train network in the past financial year, injuring nearly 900 passengers. Central Station saw the most incidents, closely followed by stops along the city circle. And a warning for those with two left feet. This weekend we are expecting a ton of rain, making platforms slippery and that last-minute dash even more dangerous. At Chatswood, James Wilson, 9 News.
An old cemetery in the state's northern tablelands is being restored thanks to a group of inmates. More than 700 graves in the gold mining town of Hillgrove were abandoned in the 1920s, the site now overgrown. Community service offenders from Armidale are now dedicating their weekends to weeding and cleaning up the area. Dozens of endangered white seahorses are settling into a new home tonight after being released into the harbour. It's thanks to a $45 million government program that's cleaning up our waterways and helping breathe new life into our ecosystem.
Check-in was always going to be crowded. 101 endangered white seahorses jostling for the best room in the house.
How did it go down there? Are they happy customers?
Yeah, they've all checked in, so yeah, looking good.
Released into seahorse hotels at the bottom of Chowder Bay, these 4-month-olds will couple up in time for breeding season this summer.
Each of these pairs, once they partner up, could contribute to 1,000 new seahorses born in the wild.
It's a lot of pressure on Dad, given he's the one who gives birth.
You've got a man here who carries hundreds of babies and stays with his partner for life. What more could you want?
There's a small army working round the clock to clean up Sydney Harbour and save the threatened species, which declined by more than 50% due to pollution destroying their homes. That's where seahorse hotels come in.
These artificial habitats are replacing the natural habitats that have been lost. We need them for the seahorse populations to recover.
And it's working. For the first time ever, a white seahorse was spotted off Cockatoo Island 4 weeks ago.
That's amazing because for years Cockatoo Island was a heavy industrial area, shipbuilding. It's hard to imagine a more contaminated part of the harbour.
As the seahorses settle into their first night in their new home, the hard work certainly doesn't end there. Here in the breeding room, they're preparing for another release in just 2 weeks' time at Balmoral, before a third at Botany Bay.
In the meantime, they'll be well looked after. At Chowder Bay, Sophie Walsh, 9 News.
Coming up, Belinda with the weekend weather.
Thanks, Georgie. Another good night for Vivid. Showers becoming less likely later this evening and mild temperatures. Right now, it is still 19 degrees in the city. But a cold southerly change is coming. Sydney getting a soaking this weekend. That forecast is next. Welcome back. Dull and dreary skies over Sydney today with just a few little sprinkles so far. But on the bright side, the cloudy conditions creating this fiery sunset. A picture-perfect end to the working week, as well as autumn and the month of May. After a mild morning, top temperatures today were close to average for this time of year, reaching the low 20s with light to moderate northerly winds. A west to southwesterly change sweeping across southern and western New South Wales. A top of just 18 for Burke, that is 5 degrees below average. That change also dumping rain across the state, so far the heaviest over the central tablelands with more than 30 millimetres falling around Orange. And that weather is heading to Sydney. An east coast low expected to deepen off the southeast coast tomorrow, whipping up strong winds, large waves and bringing heavy rain to the east. Brisbane also in for a wet start to the weekend, fine, and a top of 15 degrees for Canberra, even colder in Melbourne and Hobart, 18 and partly cloudy in Adelaide and late showers and 23 for Perth. Back home to New South Wales, and you can see that rain band tracking east. The heaviest falls over the northeast of our state, with 25 to 50 millimetres forecast around Tamworth, and scattered showers across the Central Coast and the Hunter, plus the chance of some snow on the Alpine peaks. Temperatures for the first day of winter close to average, dipping to 5 in Bega and Bathurst tomorrow morning, then most places reaching the mid to high teens, the far north coast climbing into the low 20s. Sydney will also be cloudy and wet, a very high chance of rain, most likely from the late morning. There's also the chance of a thunderstorm along the coastal fringe, 9 to 35 millimetres forecast for the city and 2 to 20 in our outer west. Top temperatures 2 to 4 degrees cooler than today, 17 or 18 in our west and 19 for the city. But that wind chill will make it feel a few degrees colder thanks to those southerlies becoming moderate to fresh in the middle of the day. And round 2 on Sunday, the Bureau expecting a further 15 to 60 millimetres in the city and a top of just 17. Easing to a shower or two on Monday and then sunny skies on Tuesday. At this stage, some showers returning at the end of the week. Tops around 16 to 19 in our west. Some cooler mornings on Tuesday and Wednesday. The worst of the rain over the next 2 days, prompting a warning from Water New South Wales if we get an average of 35 millimetres over Warragamba Dam in the next 48 hours. It may cause a minor spill. It just depends on timing and where that rain ends up falling, but we are in for a soggy start to June. Georgie.
Good on you, Belinda. Thank you. And that is 9 News for this Friday. Deb Knight's next with A Current Affair. I'm Georgie Gardner. Thanks for being with us. Enjoy your evening. Good night.